So I was born in 1968 and I was diagnosed soon after birth with CF. I had complications straight away, so they took me to the Children's Hospital and I was diagnosed there within the first week, and started my journey there with my mum and brother. And realistically, look, I've been really lucky. I did have a lot of admissions when I was little, but my mum was really determined from day one to give me a really normal life. So she really sort of was amazing, was fantastic, and really just included me in everything, tried to keep me really active. My name's Nardia Robertson. I'm 53 years old, 53, 54, and I've got cystic fibrosis. I'm married. I've got a husband of 25 years who's seen the in and outs of CF and stuck by me all the way, and I've got a puppy, I've got a poodle, and I've got 3 stepchildren and 7 grandchildren. So I've worked in the fashion industry all my life, which I've loved, and it's been I think it's been really good for me. Dealing with CF and having a passion passion for anybody is really important. And now I have my own clothing label, Caravan & Co. I have 2 labels actually, Caravan & Co. and Holster. Back in 1968, the sort of management of CF was quite different, and certainly along the way I've learnt so much, and as the team's learnt so much more, and medications have become available, and new sort of practices, physio and all this sort of stuff has become widely used. I've certainly seen changes in the outcomes of CF, and feeling really lucky to be here at 53. I think when Mum was told I had CF, they were given sort of an age limit of around about, I think 9, 10, 11, something like that. So I never thought, and my parents never thought, and my family never thought that I'd be here today, and here I am. So just feel incredibly grateful and blessed. I was really well in my 20s, and I was able to start a career and, date and do all the things that everybody does, and met my husband when I was 28. I was really well. And even in my 30s, I was really well and worked. But then at 41, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, and I underwent a resection and chemotherapy, and that really knocked me around. I did recover, and I had a plan that I would just try and maintain lung function and weight. That was the focus. But then in 2012, the cancer went to my lung, and I had to have a lung resection. And that really knocked me around. So really from that time, things started to decline with my lungs and my health in general, to a point where I was staring down the barrel towards a transplant. It was a really tricky and emotional time. With transplant, you have to be 5 years cancer-free to actually be accepted onto the list. And I was becoming more and more unwell and looking like I wouldn't make it to the 5 years to be well enough to be accepted onto the list. My amazing medical team, I love dearly, applied to get me access to Orkambi, which wasn't actually listed on the PBS, but there was an opportunity for a compassionate access to the drug, and I was accepted onto that. And that really, it didn't improve my health, but it stabilised me and slowed my decline so that I could make the 5 years and then look at applying to or look at transplant. I went on the list and really, my weight was very low. My lung function, I didn't end up doing lung function in the end because I thought there's no point, it's just going to be depressing. And lung function tests, I should say. And then I went on the list in 2017 and just tried to stay as active as I could. What kept me going was having things to do. I think that's really important. And things outside of CF, I've always tried to make CF not the centre of my world. It's just part of who I am. It's a small part, and it does provide lots of challenges along the way, but you can't make it your entire life because that would just be depressing. So I just kept as busy as I could, and then I got the call and went into the Alfred and had the transplants. The next day, I don't remember a lot. I was in ICU for I think about 4 days. I was pretty well and I could have come out earlier, but I had my pain relief was through my spine, I think, because they couldn't access my veins. My veins were just shot by the time I got to transplant. So I had to stay in ICU for a few days until they took out the main sort of catheter, if you like, or IV catheter. I was in ICU and I remember my husband and mother coming in, and my husband actually filmed me waking up, and I didn't want him to, and I was like, no, but I'm so glad he did, because you're on a lot of medication, a lot of drugs, and I wouldn't have remembered waking up unless my husband had filmed it. So the first day it's just a blur. You're in ICU, people are coming and going, you're on a lot of medication, which is good because otherwise you'd be in a lot of pain. And the ICU team are lovely, although I wouldn't have remembered other than the video. So I would say ask your nearest and dearest to take some sort of film or something. It's only a couple of minutes, but it gives you, when you look back, it actually gives you a sense of where you were and what you were like. About 4 or 5 days afterwards, I went up on the ward in 5 East, and you're still on a lot of medication, and you know, I think the thing before transplant is your focus is just staying well enough to get to transplant. So my daily activities were IVs, you know, tests, and making sure that my weight was as good as it could be, and that I was isolating myself and not getting infections, and managing my medication, my physio and all those sorts of things. It's a really big program. So you don't really spend a lot of time thinking about after transplant. You're just spending your time trying to stay alive until the transplant comes. But after you wake up, I remember I was very emotional, and that's because you're on a lot of medication, really strong steroids and really strong pain relief. And I was very up and down emotional. And it was really the first time I started thinking about the donor. And I always get emotional when I talk about it, but you know, it's I didn't spend a lot. I knew the process before, but you really don't. You're so busy and caught up on your own health. I really didn't spend that time until afterwards thinking about the donor and that process. So I found that really emotional, but also really amazing. And you're overwhelmed with the medical teams and all these people who have put so much time and energy into saving your life. So that's really humbling, and you're very grateful and you're overwhelmed, and you're trying to learn a new process, new drug regime, new approaches to eating, because you have to be so careful with your immunity. And learning a whole new disease, if you like. So it's really overwhelming and emotional, but also amazing. I remember I was quite high, if you like, on medication. I wandered around the ward trying to find everybody to give them a hug because I was so excited. But also, I constantly was saying, this is amazing, because it is. It's an incredible gift. So, yeah. I did lean on the hospital a lot, and the Alfred were amazing. It's a wonderful team, and that was a really big support too. I think the CF community, you need to embrace the community and you know, seek out, you know, your group, the people that you connect with that are going to help and support you through your journey. Because nobody can do it alone. It's just too hard. So straight after transplant, you're engaged in a approximately 6-month program of physio. So I was transplanted at the Alfred, and I attended the transplant gym there, which was great because you lose a lot of confidence in your body and in exercise. You know, I actually had no idea. I'd never been into a gym anyway because of the coughing and all this sort of thing. And so suddenly you're in a really intense program where you're not actually coughing when you do exercise, which is fantastic. And so it really gave me the chance to see exercise and a gym and all those sorts of things in a new light. And you actually, for the first time in my life, it wasn't hard. I actually enjoyed it because previous to transplant, the gym is part of your routine, but it's, you know, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back based on, you know, getting infections and this sort of thing. But when you attend the transplant gym, after transplant, you're actually improving every day. So you start, you know, and you're improving with your personal confidence, your fitness level, and you just see constant improvements, and it just feels really good. Plus, you're actually working with a community of people who are also, you know, on their fitness project or program. So it's a really nice sort of, you're collaborating with sort of others and hearing about their story while you slowly sort of get back to normal, really, and learn to live again. You know, yeah, so it was a really good experience and gave me a lot of confidence to then go on and maintain sort of regular fitness activities and so forth. You know, I was 50 when I was transplanted, so I really had a very long CF journey and was pretty confident in terms of my knowledge and background and my approach. So suddenly you have this new disease, if you like, or new sort of you know, part to your life that you have to learn about from scratch. So that was, I found a bit overwhelming in the beginning until I really got on board and had the opportunity to meet the team and get to know some of the medical staff. And the other thing, probably the thing that I found the hardest was transferring from one team to the other. I was really close to the CF team and had a really good, I'm a very much a you know, people's person and like to really engage with people and love a good chat. And I had a really good relationship with many of the CF staff, with all of them really. And, you know, but then you meet a new team, you don't know anybody, and learning their names and, you know, and I found that quite challenging because I was very confident in that CF environment and with the CF team, and suddenly you're learning about a new disease, new staff, new doctors, and yeah, that was challenging in the beginning, changing, and it took me a while to really, you know, get my head around that and feel comfortable with the team, but it's a positive change too, because the reality is before transplant I needed a lot of support and I needed to be really engaged with the team at, you know, at a really deep level because I was so unwell and I needed the help. But after transplant, you know, suddenly I was really well and, you know, I had my challenges, but I didn't need that sort of support that I had pre-transplant. So that's also something you have to sort of develop, you know, personal confidence about, and that takes a bit of time. What I think is important to understand is I guess the fact that having a transplant isn't a cure. Okay, you still have to manage your health and make time and include, you know, the transplant requirements into your life. So there's that aspect, and it still is. I still have a lot of appointments, blood tests, managing medications, things like that. And I sort of knew that would happen, but I guess some things you can't really prepare for and some things you can't really fully understand until you're there. So I would say that you need to know that, you know, you still need to keep on top of your health, make really good choices, like before transplant. There are requirements, of course. Your medications are really important. You have to be on top of your medications. What I found helpful before transplant, I was through Cystic Fibrosis Victoria, I connected with a mentor, if you like, who had been through the transplant about a year before me, a CF person, and that was really helpful. And we just had a couple of conversations on the phone, and I found that really helpful in terms of just being able to ask things and understand in this particular situation. It was a guy of a similar age to me, and he was lovely, and we just I was able to ask quite a few questions around the transplant, the waiting for, the wait list, and the sort of medical requirements afterward, and what the operation was like, and the sort of pain level, and some of those sorts of things, and good conversations, some tricks and tips and things like that. I found that really, really helpful, just to connect with somebody else who'd been through it, not long before me. That was really good for me and my family, because then I could discuss some of the things we'd discussed with them and reassure them a little. So that was great. And I also, before transplant, you meet with the surgeon, and that was a really good conversation in terms of the details around the surgery, the expectations, and so I found those conversations really, really helpful. And really sort of put my mind at ease, if you like, and just really, for me, helped me to really feel comfortable about the process I was undertaking. It's a scary proposition. You think about the pain, and it's a really challenging, it's a big operation, but I have never regretted it for a second, and you get a lot of support along the way. But I would say that to do that, you have to reach out, and you need to know what you need, and you need to be able to ask for it, and embrace the people around you who want to support you and are there to support you, because you need that help. And stay as positive as you can. Do something every day. Don't, try and do as much as you can every day while you're waiting, because you've got to fill your day with good stuff. Otherwise, it's just depressing. So I would say stay as engaged as you can with your friends, your family, work colleagues, and have plans every day. Do some cooking, do anything, read a book, whatever, but just do stuff. Transplant, certainly lung transplant, it doesn't give you a free ticket, if you like, and to live to 90 or whatever, but I know that. But I think you need to plan ahead and plan for a long life, because that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just looking forward to, it's nice to be able to plan what I'm going to do next week, next month, next year, and have that vision going forward of a long, happy life. It just feels fantastic. It has changed my outlook in that I really am embracing my future. I always have, but it feels a bit more certain now, and there are going to be challenges in the future, but going through this and juggling the many things that you have to in your own life, and added to that the CF journey and the transplant journey, there's a certain sort of inner confidence that you can tackle things and approach things. And I think now I'm a little more fearless, and are a little more open. I'm very open to new experiences, different experiences, and just really making sure that every day is a good day.